Okay, hi, I'm Michael Wilson Barber, and this is an album review of 1982's Van Halen Diver Down. Front cover, back cover. Let me show you the inside of the album. Here's the sleeve. I had this on the wall when I was a teenager in the 1980s. And there's the other side with a bunch of photos. So, and by the way, this photo on the back of the album was taken at the end of their Fair Warning tour. I believe it's in Orlando, Florida. So, this album came off the heels of Fair Warning. This is not my original copy. I think I traded in all my Van Halen LPs because I also had them on cassette and my brother had them all. This is what it looks like now. This is the 180 gram new Warner Brothers image label. So it doesn't have the classic Warner Brothers that used to be on the Bugs Bunny cartoons. First place Bugs Bunny, second base Bugs Bunny, third base Bugs Bunny. Anyway, I got a copy of it, a 180 gram new copy. This is really, I know I'm going to upset some fans when I say this, but this is really my favorite David Lee Roth Van Halen album, and I'll sort of explain why, but I think mainly a couple reasons. One, it was the first Van Halen album I had, and so I have a lot of memories of this from 1982, 1983. And of course we were waiting for the new 1984 album to come out. So I used to play this album a lot. Anyway, let me explain a little bit more. It's my first Van Halen album that I ever had. It was released on April 19th, 1982. I guess Warner Brothers was pushing Van Halen to produce another album. They came off the Fair Warning tour and wanted to take a break. So they decided to do Pretty Woman. They were going to do Dancing in the Streets, but Eddie apparently couldn't really get a handle on it right away. So they decided to do Pretty Woman and release it as a single. But Warner Brothers wanted them to do more and do an album. So from January to March of 1982, they recorded this album in apparently 12 studio days. They had, there are more covers on this album than any other Van Halen album, but they had original stuff that they already had been working with for years. Hang 'Em High dated back really to 1976, the origins of it. They'd been playing Cathedral in 1980 and 1981, I guess, as they toured live. Happy Trails, they had demos going back to 1977. But of course, David Lee Roth was very influential in all the covers that they put on here. Most covers Van Halen ever did. And then later, many years later, Eddie said this was one of his least favorite Van Halen albums. Quote, "I would rather bomb with my own music than be the world's biggest cover band," unquote. End of quote. So we see when 1984 was released, it was all Van Halen original stuff with no covers, which I guess then led to the final split between David Lee Roth and the Van Halen brothers, because Eddie didn't want to do any more covers, and Dave, of course, did want to do more covers, which he did. He released a couple of solo albums that were pretty popular. Anyway, couple more reasons. By the way, this album sold 4 million copies by the late 90s, which is actually more than Women and Children First and Fair Warning. So it's not the least selling of the Van Halen David Lee Roth albums. It sold 4 million, which is very respectable. Another reason this is one of my favorite Van Halen albums is because Mr. Van Halen, Jan Van Halen, they were Dutch, so I think he pronounced it Jan Van Halen, played clarinet on Big Bad Bill Is Sweet William Now. So that's really a fun song. Another reason this is my favorite David Lee Roth Van Halen albums, my favorite album, okay, is because it's just a fun album. And Van Halen 1, I always kind of envision as kind of dark. Even the cover of Van Halen 1 is kind of dark. Van Halen 2 is kind of a fun album. Women and Children First and Fair Warning I both kind of see as sort of dark albums. There's a few dark themes in those albums, and they sold less, by the way. Though I really like all of those albums, this one is just a fun album with songs like Where Have All the Good Times Gone, Little Guitars, Hang 'Em High, Secrets, Intruder, Pretty Woman, Big Bad Bill, Dancing in the Street, Cathedral, Happy Trails, and The Full Bug. This is just a fun album. It's not really dark at all, and it was a good segue into 1984, which was different but in its own way, but this is an album review for Diver Down. So again, it's my favorite of all the Van Halen David Lee Roth albums, 1982, and I don't have my original copy. And let me see, I might be able to play a little segment of it for you here. Hope you enjoyed this review. Like and subscribe. Click the link below. We are sponsored by Skooka Merch. If you want to buy a t-shirt, let me know. We have 3 or 4 different designs right now. So I hope you like this album. You don't have to. If you don't, it's your loss. So enjoy Van Halen Diver Down. As Bob Ross says, God bless. Goodbye. Okay, so I'm going to play a little segment of Hang 'Em High. I don't know how much I'm allowed to play on YouTube, but I think a lot of Van Halen fans think of Diver Down as a lightweight album, but listen to this, for example, from Hang 'Em High, the beginning part of Hang 'Em High. Man, that rocks. 1982, Van Halen. Bye.